Tonight, the United States wins the gold. In what event? Oh, corporate tax rates. That's right. Starting this Sunday, the U.S. will have the world's highest corporate tax rate. Now, Japan was the world leader, but it is now cutting its rate back to 38%. That bumps the United States to the top spot with a 39.2% tax rate. One person who will not be celebrating that victory, Senator John Barrasso. You're not celebrating it.
No, I'm not. We know what we need to do to get people back to work, and it's low taxes and reasonable regulations. And right now in the United States, we have neither. In the last 10 years, 30 different major economic powerhouse countries around the world have lowered their tax rates. Britain just did it, and they said, you know, Britain's open for business. We are now higher than everyone. China, Russia, take a look all around. And as a result, jobs and money are leaving the country.
Small businesses with a high tax rate, by the end of the year, let's say that they have $100,000 left over by the end of the year with high tax rates, they will in December offload it. They'll maybe hire more people or buy more copy machines or invest in something so that they can zero out by the end of their year, let's say the calendar year, so that in that way they're spending money to rev up the economy. Is that not true of sort of big corporations? I mean, that we sort of want to encourage them to offload their money, whether it's by dividends or buying things or investing it, and by keeping a high tax rate they're more inclined to. Is that not true?
Well, they've been spending money and sending money overseas, and then the money and the profits they make there are taxed at a higher rate coming back to the United States. So they're more likely to continue to hire more people overseas and bring less back. But why are they sending it overseas
to start with?
Well, a lot of it's over there now. You'd like to get some of that back, but if I mean, money follows the incentives and the consequences, and the incentives right now are to be overseas, and I'm more worried about the jobs for American workers. I want to get people back to work in this country. We have 20 million Americans who are either unemployed or underemployed, and when we get the gold medal for the highest tax rates in the world, that doesn't help us as a nation.
And I agree. I want jobs too. I'm just wondering though, if you sort of if you remove the money from them, give them an incentive to offload the money. Though I'm not suggesting that they sit on that money and turn it over in taxes to the government, because that would be fundamentally a big, stupid business decision if they can get rid of it and if they're hiring people doing that kind of thing. But I'm sort of curious, like what do you expect if they're piling up profits? Because I've seen these enormous profits that companies like the big oil are making. It's in like $30–40 billion a year. What do you want them to do with that? Are they going to just save that money, or what are they going to do with it?
Well, I want them to invest and hire more people in the United States, and the incentive is to lower the tax rate to 28. The president said 28. I think we need to go to 25%, because when the president wanted to lower it a little bit, he put in new taxes of $350 billion on top of it, so it'd almost be worse than not doing anything at all. But the way to get people the incentives to invest in this country instead of move that money overseas is just to lower the tax rates and be competitive. We are now 10 to 15% higher, Greta, than the average across the world, and that's the wrong way to go.
Well, what's interesting is that Japan is lowering the economic reason behind Japan lowering its tax rate is because it does believe that will rev up the economy in Japan. That's why they're doing it.
And that's why these other 30 countries have done it as well. It's why Britain has just done it. You're seeing where we were 25 years ago, the last time we had tax reform in the country. What we need to do is eliminate all the loopholes, and there are a lot of them there, and then lower the overall tax rate to a reasonable number, which is what the world number is, which is 25%.
So do you think that if we lower the tax rate here in the United States, let's say we zero it out, we're not going to zero it out, but just for purposes, that all the money that's overseas being held in some place overseas, that will come back to the United States, and you think that American businesses will then create jobs here in the United States rather than leave it overseas and use cheaper labor?
Well, yeah, I do. I think that people want to get Americans back to work. I think the multinational countries, but those based in the United States we want to give them the incentives to be here. And with the high tax rate and the incredible regulatory rampage out of this administration, it's making a lot harder to create jobs in this country.
Well, don't most companies, in terms of whatever they're making, whatever widget they're making, they're going to make it where they can make it the cheapest and have the largest margin of profit, right?
Well, that's what corporations often do.
But that's the whole goal. So if they can make something overseas for half the price, why would they bring that money back to the United States to make that widget and have it cost more and consequently lower their margin of profit.
Yeah, well, I mean, you talk about production, and if you want to produce kind of low-cost items, that's one way, and we've seen that for years. But I think the American economy and the American dream is something that people have worked on for years, and I want to get more people back to work here. And I look at so much money leaving and jobs leaving, and that's the bigger issue, is the jobs leaving. We want to get people back to work here, and the way to do it is to give the incentives to invest in this country, to hire more folks. And at this high tax rate, we're the highest in the world. It's hurting our economy.
Well, the interesting thing is, I was wondering who was number 3. You know who number 3 is? I actually had to look it up. We're now number 1. Japan's number 2, and France is pulling up the rear at 34%.
Well, we need to do better. We ought to do better. We need to eliminate all of the loopholes. We need tax
And what's the holdup,
simplification.
though? I mean, if the president wants to lower it, I realize he wants to add some tax revenue increases someplace, which is the Republicans won't agree to. But everybody agrees to bring the corporate tax rate down. But here we sit tonight, or at least it'll be Sunday, we're number 1.
Yeah. The good news is that both parties are talking about it now, and that's why I'm hoping that we can get something done. But the president's been in office for over 3 years. It's time to act.
All right. Well, should we hold our breath waiting?
Well, I wouldn't hold
You're
my
a
breath,
doctor.
but I'm going to keep working on it because I want to get people back to work.